Hello, my name is Mark Parker, Senior Solutions Engineer with Trustwave. I'm going to be showing you the Web Filter and Reporting Suite today. First thing you need to understand about the Web Filter and Reporting Suite is that it is installed using a passive deployment method rather than an inline deployment method. This means you don't need to make any changes to the network, you don't have to change your routes, anything like that. All you need to do is configure a port monitor on a switch or use a tap or a hub to allow the web filter to capture traffic. So all of the traffic that is leaving the organization through the gateway, we get a copy of that, and that is then going to be filtered. So if a request is made to a site that would be allowed, it's just going to log that. If a request is made to a site that would be blocked, it's going to spoof the web server and send a block page back to the end user. That means that the end user is notified that they were blocked, and then it will send a TCP reset to both sides of the connection to shut that connection down. All of that traffic is then logged into the security reporter, both blocked and allowed traffic, so that you can do both real-time and forensic reporting via the security reporter. And for organizations that have less than 7,000 users, this is actually one appliance that will take care of the filtering and reporting for you. The category database that is used from Trustwave is one that gives you a lot of depth into how you're going to set your policy. You're going to use these categories to set your policy. So for example, for users that have a little bit more mahogany in their office, you may not block as many things as you would for, say, a call center. You can see that they are broken out into different category groups, so that allows you to navigate easier and to understand where things are easier. But you still have a large number of categories that gives you a great amount of depth and control over your policy. For that traffic that is not using HTTP, you have pattern detection, and that's going to allow you to cover things like web-based proxies, peer-to-peer networks, streaming media, things that don't necessarily have to use the browser and maybe using another application. What these patterns will do is detect the usage of these applications and be able to shut that connection down so that the user can't use that. That would be useful for blocking things like, say, anonymizer web-based proxy or Nutella network peer-to-peer client. Now, if you have mobile users and you want to make sure that those users are filtered when they leave your network, then what you can do is install what's called our mobile security client onto those laptops. When they are in network, they will be filtered. When they are out of network, that client will connect to a web filter within your DMZ, and what that will do is then proxy the traffic through that DMZ mobile filter, and it will make sure that all of the traffic is filtered based upon what policy that user should have. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the web filter itself. The web filter user interface is done all through a browser, so that means that you have complete control over all of the configurations that you're going to make right through your web browser. So it's all point and click. And so you'll see here we have the system screen, and this is where you're going to do a lot of your general setup and maintenance. So for example, you have your network settings. You have the ability to control the filter so that you can, if you need to turn filtering off, you have the ability to do that here without having to turn off or unplug the system. You can enable and disable certain functions. You have the ability to control, which operating mode you're in, but most importantly, you have your software updates. And the software update is nice because what it allows you to do is be alerted when a software update has been downloaded. So it automatically downloads that software update. You're already phoning home for library updates, and so it will download a software update. So if there is a software update available, you will click on that software update. You can click apply, and it will install that software update onto the system. So if you needed to do a change control or anything like that, you just click apply after you filed that change control and are in your change control window. But you don't have to, get a USB key to do any of the system updating. You don't have to shut the system down manually, anything like that. You just simply click apply. It will automatically take care of any reboots that need to take place if necessary, and will install that update for you automatically. You also have your automatic backup and restore, so you could schedule your backups so that any configuration changes you make to the system are automatically backed up for you. And that allows you to keep a history of what your system configs have been. You have the library, and what the library section does, it allows you to control how things are categorized. So for example, you have your entertainment. So everything within entertainment is going to be within the entertainment category group. You have your adult content. Everything within adult content will be in the adult content category group. You have your custom categories, and you can go in and add well over 100 custom categories. So you can have pretty much any number you need here. And you can go in and add to this list, remove from this list. So if you wanted your own custom allow list, you would be able to have that. Your own custom block list, you'd be able to have that. And so you can have a different allow list for different groups of users if necessary. And then you also have control over how things are categorized within the categories that are provided for you by Trustwave. So for example, if I wanted to come into pornography adult content, because the Playboy.com domain had changed hands and now it was no longer serving adult content, so I wanted to remove that. Well, I just come in here, type www.playboy.com, I click remove. And if you've ever used a web filtering solution that can be cumbersome in trying to allow a URL or recategorize a URL, you will see that this can be very helpful. So here, instead of the www.playboy.com that I typed in, it comes back and tells me, well, what you actually have is star.playboy.com is categorized as pornography adult content. Would you like to remove that? I click apply action, and now I've removed star.playboy.com from the adult content library. And since that is my own local change, it will not be overwritten by future library updates, so that will remain in effect. In addition to controlling the URLs within the category, you will also see that you have the ability to have things like URL keywords. So if you wanted to have a certain keyword list that you wanted to block any URLs that have this particular keyword within the URL, you would be able to do that. That could be extremely useful for blocking particularly offensive words, or instances where there is a particular file name that you don't want users to download. Now jumping over to the policy portion. The policy portion is where you will get your control over what the policy for the users is. So I can set policies by IP address. So all I'd have to do is create a group, like this laptop group that is here. Look at the members, and I can add in a source IP address and then a subnet. So I can use the subnet to set that, or I could do a source IP and start, where I could type in the starting IP address and the ending IP address and add that, and those users will be members of that group. In addition, I can have subgroups, so I can take portions of that IP range and break them up into smaller pieces. But what most of our customers will use is an LDAP. An LDAP can be an Active Directory domain. It can be an eDirectory. It can be an Apple Open Directory. There's a large number of choices. So here you'll see that I have the domain here. And what I can do is I can go ahead and go in and take a look at some of the different automatic domains. And even if you have a generic LDAP, you could choose other. I just go in and put in my server information. I put in an account so that I can talk to it. And now I'm able to pull in all of the different aliases that you have there. And then I am able to have the ability to manage my profile objects. So I can go in and I can search for groups. And so if I wanted to look for groups within my domain, I would have the ability to do so. In this case, I'll just go ahead and search by a wildcard, and what will happen is it will come back and give me all of the groups that are available to me through the domain. And so if I wanted to add one, I just go ahead and select that particular group, and then I could add a rule to that particular group. So with the rule, I've set the filtering for that particular group, and then they would have that policy. So now every time they log in, they are going to get that policy. So I can set those by group. I could set it by container, which is an OU. I can also do individual user policies. And then you have the ability to do workstation policies as well. This can be particularly useful for situations where you might have a kiosk system that you don't want people to be surfing the internet on. It's sitting in a public area, and it's only supposed to allow them to look at benefit information, for example. Now, once I've added the group, it shows up here in my tree. And so I can take that particular group and look at the policy. And what you will see is that with the policy, I have the rule that is defined here, and I will talk about the rules in a moment. Or I can come in and I can change it. And so if I wanted to change it, I could say, you know what, this particular category I'm going to set to worn, and now I'm using a custom profile as opposed to a rule. And then I can save that, and what will happen is now that particular group will get that particular policy. What rules allow you to do is create one policy and use it across multiple user groups. This is the way that most people manage their systems. So for example, if you wanted to have the same rule for marketing and sales, they're still going to be in different Active Directory groups, one group marketing, one group sales, but you can still apply the same rule to them without having to go and manually apply the policy to them. If you're in K-12 education, this would be useful for, say, Main Street Middle School and Central Middle School, where they would have the same policy but be in different groups. So what I would do is just choose one of my rules. In this case, I'll choose this particular rule. I'm going to go ahead and click New Rule, and I've made a copy of it. And then I can go through and make whatever changes I want, where I can define, you know, what the policy is going to be. I can set different things to be blocked or allowed based upon what the policy should be for that particular user. Once I'm done with that, I click Save Rule. Oh, need to enter a description. I will go ahead and do so. We'll call this the special rule since it's for special users. And I will go ahead and click Save Rule. Yes, I want to save my changes. And now I've created a rule. Now, if I go into, let's say, the policy for sales engineers, now I can come in and you will see that that Rule 10 exists right here. And I have now defined that rule, and I've applied that policy. And so if I go to another group, such as schema admins, and I go to the profile, I can then drop down and I can grab that rule again. So I can go through and apply the same rule to multiple groups. Then later, when I want to adjust that particular policy, I just simply have to come back to Rules, bring up that rule, and I would then be able to make changes, and that would then take effect throughout all of the groups. So it's something that makes it really easy to manage the system. Lastly, in controlling your policies, you can go in and you can set up exception URLs. So for that particular group, and this is also available for LDAP groups, you can type in a specific URL to be blocked or bypassed just for that group. So in order to ease management, you can basically use these to control the policy for just that group. You also have the ability to set up time policies, and what this will allow you to do is create a scheduled change in policy. So for example, if you wanted to lift some restrictions at lunchtime, you could go in and say, you know what, every day or weekly, Monday through Friday, we're going to go ahead and set a different policy for, let's say, 12 o'clock. Go to 11:45, and we will end that at 1 o'clock p.m. and p.m. And so now we've set up a lunch policy. And you know, I go ahead and change the rule to whatever particular rule I want to use, or I could use a custom policy. I can do different filter options if I'd like, And what that will do is allow me to have that different policy during that lunch hour. And that will apply, of course, just to the group that I created it for. You also have the ability to assign groups to administrators. So for example, if I wanted this particular group to be managed by a sub-administrator, I can do that. So what I would do is just simply choose the user that I wanted that to be assigned to, apply it, and now that user, when that particular sub-administrative user logs in, they will have control over that particular group. Now, what that means is they won't see the groups that are not assigned to them, so they can't change policy for people that they do not manage. They will only be able to change policy for those users that are assigned to them or those that they manage. So that gives you the ability to create delegated administration of policy so that a manager can, who knows their employees and knows what restrictions need to take effect best, can manage the policy for their particular department. That concludes the demo for the Web Filter and Reporting Suite. If you have any questions or need any more information, go ahead and contact us here at Trustwave. Thank you.